She straightened her back, the lace slipping from her grasp as she met his gaze with an intensity that could ignite the storm outside. And what would you know of charades, Malik? You dance around your secrets as fluidly as a ballroom waltz, yet here you stand judging my choices. Judging? Malik stepped forward, closing the distance, his expression shifting from teasing to earnest. I worry about you. This engagement has become a noose, and all I see is you tightening it willingly. A flash of thunder echoed outside, rattling the windows and enveloping them in darkness momentarily before the lights flickered back on. Cleo's heart pounded, not from fear but from the tempestuous swirl of emotions inside her. You make assumptions, Malik, she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. You don't know what it's like to sacrifice everything for an idea of love of duty. He crossed his arms, an uncharacteristic frown marring his usually charming face. Sacrifice shouldn't mean suffocation, Cleo. You deserve better than an engagement that's just a cover for something darker. With each word, the tension escalated, spiraling around them like the storm outside. You think you know what's best for me? You think I'm just some damsel waiting for your rescue? She challenged, indignation bubbling to the surface. This isn't about me feeling trapped. It's about the life I've built. The expectations weighed heavily on my shoulders. Built on lies, Malik countered, his voice low and firm, striking a nerve. Their eyes locked like thunderclouds ready to burst. You've lost sight of who you are, who you were before this all began. Don't you see that? And yet, you've kept your own demons hidden, she spat, each word heavy with weight. What makes you so special that I should lay my soul bare while you keep yours locked away? The room throbbed with the depth of their connection, fraying at the seams and bursting with an electric charge. I don't want you to suffer, Malik said, taking a step closer, his voice softening as the storm whipped outside. The sincerity in his tone broke through the tension like sunlight peeking through a thundercloud. Every second you spend tangled in this web is one less moment of freedom. She turned away briefly, the flickering lights reflecting her indecision. Freedom? Cleo echoed, her voice quieter, softened by uncertainty. Can't you see? My freedom threatens everyone I love. To choose myself now feels like a betrayal. Lies are betrayals too, and keeping those you love in the dark, that's the heaviest burden of all. Malik's voice was low, yet it resonated with such power that Cleo felt it reverberate through her very being. The storm crescendoed, rain lashing against the window pane like a heartbeat, each drop echoing the turmoil within her. Cleo finally turned, meeting Malik's gaze. And what would you sacrifice, Malik? How far will you go to protect me? Everything, he answered without hesitation, the weight of his words settling between them. I would sacrifice my darkest secrets if it meant your light could shine again. In that moment, Cleo felt the boundaries falter. The shared vulnerability crackled like electricity in the air. Then perhaps we're both sacrificing our chains for this fleeting echo of freedom, she whispered, the realization weighing heavily yet freeing at once. Malik stepped closer, their breaths mingling in the humid air. Together, we can shatter those chains, Cleo, he said, as the storm outside raged on. Yet within their confinement, a newfound warmth blossomed, an understanding that perhaps, in sacrificing their personal darkness, a brilliant dawn could emerge. I hope you're right, she murmured, eyes locked on his, a flicker of hope blooming amid the chaos. Scene 44. Facing the past. The gentle murmur of rain pattered relentlessly against the sun-drenched window panes, a soft chorus that somehow resonated with the tumult swirling within Cleo. She stood in the lush green courtyard of her family's estate, occupying a space brimming with vibrant blooms yet shadowed by sinister memories. In her hands she held a delicate pair of shears, fumbling slightly as she hesitantly approached a tangle of wilting petals, a flowerbed choked with weeds. The sun lingered beyond the gray clouds, fighting for a chance to illuminate the space, much like her yearning for clarity amidst the overwhelming fog of her past. Are you going to prune or merely admire the chaos? Malik's voice sliced through the air, rich and teasing, as he approached from behind. He offered a lopsided smile, his features softened by the diffused light, yet his eyes bore a gravity that made Cleo's heart race in unexpected ways. With a sharp intake of breath, Cleo tightened her grip on the shears, the crisp snap of the blades resounding as she severed the first offending stem. "The chaos is familiar, much like my family," she replied, her tone laced with sardonic humor that couldn't quite mask her inner turmoil. Malik chuckled lowly, stepping closer. "Familiarity breeds contempt, as they say." His eyes lingered on her hands, the way her fingers flexed around the tools, a testament to her fierce determination. "Yet you're here. A decision like that speaks volumes." "I'm here because I have to be," she shot back, fierce resolve feigning strength beneath the weight of his scrutiny. The rain intensified, and each drop slid down the smooth stone path like a teardrop cascading from the heavens. "These flowers won't prune themselves." Or maybe he stepped further into her space, arms crossed, eyes intent. "You're trying to prune the past instead." His shift in intimacy made a heady warmth unfurl in the pit of her stomach as his gaze never wavered. Though she knew he was right, her defenses shot up. "You don't understand, Malik. You don't know what's at stake. My family, they're more than just a tarnished legacy. It's my entire life," she snapped, her words laced with the sharp edges of suppressed pain. Each sentence pushed her deeper into conflict, yet she had never been closer to the truth. Malik leaned back against the weathered wall, allowing the tension to fill the space between them like a thick fog. "And denying it, hiding it will make it disappear? Cleo, you can uproot the weeds, but those roots run deep. Are you ready to face what grows beneath?" As the winds picked up, a gust brushed past them, swirling the scents of earth and rain. Cleo looked away, her chest tightening. "I don't want to face it," she admitted, vulnerability cracking the icy exterior she so carefully crafted. I want the past to stay buried." "Then you and I are in a precarious position." Malik moved closer, his presence commanding yet tender. The intimacy crackled like the impending storm overhead. "You're entangled with a man who knows far more than he lets on." "Malik," she breathed, the air thick with the tension that promised a forceful reckoning. Their gazes collided, his dark intensity deepening the air around them, charging the moment with an unspoken understanding that transcended words. "Your family is part of the very darkness you fear," he interjected, unyielding, but there was a softness in his voice that urged her closer, beckoning her to be brave. "But also, Cleo, not everything is as it seems. There's a chance that you're not like them," she finished, the thought stirring an unsettling hope within her. Their dynamic was more tumultuous than she cared to acknowledge, and the fear of being hurt again was profound. "But how can I trust you?" "Trust is born from vulnerability," he challenged gently. "If you let your guard down, you might find more than just sorrow amid the weeds. Let me help you face it." In that moment, as the clouds thrashed against the sky, unleashing a torrent of rain, Cleo felt the very ground beneath her tremble. She pierced through the chaos of her love for Malik, a hope flickering like the distant light in a storm. Uncertain but undeterred, she clutched the shears, her heart racing. "Then help me face it, together." Malik's smile hinted at possibilities yet to unfold, as the chaos of the storm echoed the equally tumultuous feelings swirling between them. "Together?" he mirrored softly, and for the first time a sliver of belief brightened her spirit amidst the shadows of her past. The rain drenched them both, washing away the weight of secrets, reveling in the cleansing of the aching heart. Scene 45, Rising from Ashes. The soft pitter-patter of rain pattered against the cobblestone streets of the dimly lit alley as the scent of damp earth wafted through the air, a bitter balm that mingled with the sharp tang of smoke drifting from the nearby tavern. Cleo Seke stood at the threshold of self-discovery and vulnerability, her heart thrumming beneath her corset like a war drum. She could feel the oppressive, heavy fingers of her family's expectations clawing at her, but she was done feeling like prey. "Today I step into the fire," she whispered to herself, the rain trickling down her temple, transforming her resolve into palpable energy. She stepped forward, the rhythm of her boots a defiance against the cruel thrum of society's judgment. Malik Orpheus emerged from the shadows of a nearby archway, his figure framed by flickers of lantern light. The glistening droplets cascading over his skin accentuated both his sturdy form and the distant storm brewing within him. Caught between his protective instincts and the sorrowful specter of his own secrets, he regarded Cleo with a blend of admiration and concern. Cleo, he began, his voice low and velvet smooth. It's unforgiving out here. You shouldn't be alone. I'm not alone, Malik, she replied, turning, the fire in her eyes reflecting both defiance and challenge. Her voice was steady, though it trembled underneath the surface like the water's edge. You're beside me, and as much as you wish to protect me, I must face this uncertain light. The air between them crackled, tension igniting passion like wildfire. He stepped closer, the space between them a mere heartbeat as raindrops dripped from her lashes, creating delicate patterns on her cheek, nature's way of plucking at emotional strings. What do you plan to do? He asked, his brow furrowing as he searched her gaze. The night deepened around them, the world becoming a stormy canvas for her rebellion. I'm going to confront him, Cleo answered, the declaration blooming in the silence like a vivid rose amidst thorns. Adisa has chained me in a gilded cage long enough. He believes I'm just a pawn in this game. Malik stiffened, the name of her fiancé striking a chord of protectiveness in his chest. Adisa can be volatile, he cautioned, taking a step back, crossing the invisible line of intimate distance. He doesn't play by the rules. Then neither will I, she snapped, a flicker of defiance igniting her spirit. No more chains, no more expectations. Not from him, not from my family. I could drown in their demands, or I could swim. As rain continued to pelt the cobblestones, Malik couldn't help but regard her with awe. Cleo, the woman sheltered by frail dictates, was evolving before him, unfurling like the petals of a jasmine blossom in the storm. I wish you would let me help you, Malik offered, desperation threading through each word. And what? Throw yourself into the lion's den beside me? Cleo teased, her smile ghosting across her lips, splendid and fierce. The rain softened momentarily, like nature itself, holding its breath at the tension between them. If the lion's already gnashing its teeth at us, we might as well stand together, don't you think? He took another subtle step closer, letting the warmth of his presence seep into their shared space. Cleo felt a heat blossom, fierce yet comforting, their escalating connection increasingly undeniable. Together, then, she whispered, the admission laced with an unbreakable bond. But I promise, not because you want to save me, but because I want to seize my own destiny. A sudden burst of thunder shattered the moment, echoing their rising stakes. Malik's protective nature flared as his eyes scanned the shadows around them, the threat palpable. Let's move, he instructed, beckoning her to follow him into the embrace of the storm, where the line drawn by societal expectations began to blur into oblivion. In that infectious exhilaration below the darkened sky, Cleo reached for Malik's hand, her spirit alight, with every drop of rain washing away doubt and fear. Together they dashed down the alley, charged by a fierce resolve, unbroken by the chaos unfolding around them. Just remember, Cleo called over her shoulder, a bubbling laughter overcoming her previous tension. If I'm leading, maybe holding your hand is what you need to keep up. Malik laughed, a rich sound that melded with the rhythm of the rain, stirring something deep inside her. I will gladly keep up, but don't expect me to be your only shield. And so, under the stormy ballet of nature, they set forth not just to confront a man, but to reclaim their destinies, each step drawing them closer to an unknown fate, bound by ambition, intertwined scars, and a relentless fire. Scene 46, The Cost of Choice. Cleo stood in the grand, sun-drenched kitchen of her family estate, the smell of freshly baked bread mingling with the sharp tang of lemon from the tart cooling on the counter. She busied herself, her delicate fingers moving almost mechanically, as if she could find solace in the rhythmic kneading of dough. Yet the chaos of her mind spiraled in stark contrast to the serene surroundings. Just beyond the kitchen door, echoing laughter drifted from the drawing room where guests mingled, their voices a sharp reminder of the engagement party that should have celebrated her commitment. Instead, it felt like a gilded cage, suffocating her spirit. Cleo's heart raced as she recalled the weight of the ring that had once sparkled with promise, now a stone of expectation that she felt compelled to cast aside. Malik appeared in the doorway, his tall silhouette framed against the light, stretching like an impossibly dark shadow across the cool tile. He glanced around as if assessing the remnants of a battlefield, the undercurrent of tension crackling the air between them. You shouldn't hide in here, he said, though the softness of his voice belied the command in his words. Cleo paused, momentarily losing herself in the depths of his stormy eyes, a mix of concern and heat, a tempest of unspoken words swirling just beneath the surface. "And where should I go? Back out there to play the dutiful fiancée?" She wiped her hands on her apron, the fabric clinging damply to her palms. "Or you could choose to be yourself," he replied, taking a step closer. The quiet between them thickened, the kitchen enveloping them in an intimacy that felt almost sacred amidst the chaos outside. A long silence draped over them, and Cleo could hear her pulse pounding as she deliberated her next words. "Do you ever think it's too late?" she finally asked, the question almost a whisper, laden with a depth of regret and fear. "For what freedom means?" "It's never too late," Malik assured her, his voice steady as he crossed the threshold into her world, the tension fracturing the air with every unspoken thought. "What you're feeling is a reflection of choices yet to be made." "You make it sound easy," she snapped, frustration boiling beneath her cool exterior. "You don't understand the price of breaking the engagement." Malik leaned against the wooden frame of the doorway, amusement flickering in his eyes. "Try me." Cleo took a deep breath, a rush of emotion spilling over her carefully constructed walls. "I'd become the talk of the town, a scandal, a pariah. They wouldn't care about my reason. Society has no room for women who disrupt its facade." "So you chose that ring and the expectations it brings?" Malik asked, his voice softening, drawing closer until the heat from his body warmed her chilled skin. "Is that what you truly want?" "No." The admission came out more like a breath than an answer. "But I can't bear to face the judgment." Her voice cracked, the weight of her struggle pressing against the edges of her resolve. His gaze pierced through to her soul, and he stepped closer until the warmth of him ignited an electric charge in the air. "Cleo, it's either your life or a life molded by someone else's whims. Which one is worth your soul?" With a determined resolve, Cleo finally met his eye, and in that moment, a fierce connection sparked between them. A deep, unbreakable bond forged through shared pain and passion. "What if I make the wrong choice?" she whispered, vulnerable but resolute. "Then it's still your choice," he replied, his voice laced with earnestness, "and it will lead you to your truth. I'll be right here with you." The sound of laughter from the drawing room erupted again, and Cleo flinched. The kitchen suddenly felt small, stifling. She nodded, that fierce determination growing inside her, despite the terror clawing at her throat. "All right, I'll do it. I'll tell them." Malik's expression flickered with approval, but before he could speak, she turned away. The exhilaration of her decision bubbled beneath her skin, ready to explode. "But let's not tell anyone just yet. I need time to look fabulous in your new freedom?" Malik teased, the humor lifting the tension and allowing them both to breathe again. Cleo laughed, a sound of relief, and she placed a hand over her heart. "Perhaps, but more importantly, to answer for the cost of the choice." She raised her chin, her spirit reignited, ready to confront the world outside. In that moment, she felt both fragile and powerful, like the dough she had just kneaded, eager to rise anew. As they stepped towards the drawing room, the doors still swinging ajar, Malik murmured, almost to himself, "Let the judgment come then. We're ready." Scene 47. Building the future. The gentle warmth of the late afternoon sun filtered through the leaves of the ancient oak trees lining the park, casting dappled shadows on the cobblestone path. Cleo Seke felt the rich smell of damp earth mixed with the fragrance of blooming jasmine envelop her, a comforting reminder of the life swirling around her. The air was thick with the faint sound of children laughing as they chased each other, their joy a stark contrast to the turmoil inside her heart, a turmoil only she and the man before her could fully fathom. Malik Orpheus stood slightly off to her right, his hands resting casually in the pockets of his tailored trousers. The lines of his body seemed to absorb the light, the way he always did, holding an unguarded strength. His face, typically masked with an easygoing charm, revealed subtle tension. The flicker of his gaze hinted at thoughts racing beneath the surface. Cleo's heart raced in rhythm with his, her internal conflict mirrored in their charged silence. "I could see it," Cleo said, gesturing toward the horizon where the skyline melded into shades of gold and crimson, a gallery filled with art that tells stories, just waiting to be unveiled. Malik shifted slightly, his jaw tightening, enough for her to notice. And what stories would those be? His voice carried a teasing lilt, but the weight behind his question hung heavily in the air. The stories of triumph, of passion, she felt emboldened, stepping closer. The kind that defines us, makes us more than just, she faltered, indignant pride clashing with vulnerability. More than just the shadows of our past. Shadows, Cleo? He leaned in, eyes narrowing as though daring her to speak the truth that lay between them. Or the truth? Because it feels like you're stuck in that dark place, as if you are afraid of stepping into the light. Cleo met his gaze, her breath hitching as she wrestled with the tumultuous swirl of emotions within her. And what do you know of the light, Malik? She shot back, folding her arms defensively, her fingers pressing into the soft fabric of her dress. You've seen as much darkness as I have. And yet I choose to fight against it, he countered, his voice low and steadfast. What if the very thing holding you back is the idea that you don't deserve more? The words landed like a heavy note. Cleo looked away, heat rising in her cheeks, a sure sign of the tempest brewing beneath her calm exterior. You mean the chaos of my life, or the betrayal that feels as fresh as the dawn? Both, he replied, his tone unyielding. And both deserve confrontations. The past has no hold on you unless you allow it. It's rich coming from you, she said, taking a step back away from his magnetism, creating space. You have just as many shadows. Maybe, Malik said, his voice steady as a rock. But I have a choice, and so do you. As the moment stretched, an unspoken longing hung between them, a magnetism alight with tension. Cleo's fingertips tingled, the air around them vibrating with the heat of unsaid confessions. The world around them blurred, and the laughter of the children faded into a distant murmur. Malik advanced, closing the distance between them with a slow, deliberate motion. His proximity ignited something deep within her, a flicker of hope that battled against her ingrained fears. Picture it, Cleo. The life you could build, the dreams you could embrace without looking over your shoulder. But what if? She hesitated, her heart racing at the weight of unspoken desires. What if I can't? His hand lifted, fingers brushing against her cheek, a tantalizing warmth that sent a shiver through her. What if you can? His gaze locked onto hers, piercing yet gentle, stirring a desire for something more profound than the mere possibility of a dream. Cleo swallowed hard, her pulse quickening under the intensity of his stare. You make it sound so easy. Because it is, he murmured, and in that moment, something shifted. The air was thick with promise, threads of fate weaving together, tenuous yet utterly compelling. Maybe I want it too, she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. The confession a soft surrender taut with the weight of hope, a reflection of their shared journey, laden with shadows yet gleaming with light. Malik held her gaze, timeless and earnest as he said, "Then let's fight for it together." As silence enveloped them, Cleo felt the first stirrings of possibility blossom within her, her heart racing toward a future yet to unfold. Scene 48, echoes of the past. The sun dipped low over the horizon, casting an amber glow that bathed the opulent drawing room in warmth. Cleo Seke stood near a massive window, her fingers tracing the intricate patterns of the lace curtain, lost in a tide of conflicting thoughts. The delicate strands seemed to echo the complexities of her life, their beauty masking the turmoil beneath. Isn't it just wonderful? Malik Orpheus's voice interrupted, though his tone held a hint of sarcasm as he sauntered into the room, his eyes flicking to the array of family portraits lining the walls. Each framed face seemed to taunt them both, reminders of the deceptions and secrets lurking within their shared history. It's a facade, Malik, just like everything else, Cleo remarked, her words sharper than she intended. She turned, the tension in her shoulders tight as she faced him. Every family hides their scars behind polished smiles. He chuckled lightly, though the sound didn't quite reach his eyes. You paint a grim picture of the Orpheus clan, don't you? Not all that glitters is gold, but some of us are working on it. His gaze softened, and the remnants of his usual bravado slipped away, revealing a man touched by vulnerability, a rare sight. A flicker of surprise crossed Cleo's features. You really think that? Here? She challenged, pointing towards the portraits. They stand there like sentinels of deceit, while we're still fighting our way through the rubble. How can you possibly find beauty in that? Because, Malik stepped closer, his voice low and earnest, we are also the ones who get to choose how we move forward, how we break free from the past. An unmistakable tension filled the space between them, threading through her heart with a mix of fear and longing. She searched his eyes, looking for something, an answer, a promise, perhaps, only to find her own reflection tangled in the depths of his. Is it that simple? Cleo asked softly, her bravado faltering. Can we truly rewrite our stories? He held her gaze, the air thick with unspoken histories. We can try, Cleo, but it means confronting the truth, no matter how jagged it is. With those words, he reached out, lightly brushing a lock of hair behind her ear. The tenderness of his touch sent a shiver down her spine, igniting a flame where doubt had lingered. Do you think we can face it together? She ventured, her heart pounding as she took a small step toward him, emboldened by the electric connection that sparked in the space they shared. Together, he affirmed, his voice steady, but we must be brave. At that moment, the world outside faded. For Cleo, the burdens of her toxic engagement and the shame of her past felt like storms on the outskirts of a calm harbor. Malik's presence anchored her, and as the weight of their shared history hung palpably in the air, a sudden crash echoed from the corridor. The tranquility shattered into chaos. Cleo! Malik! A voice shouted, urgency taking over. It was Lynette, Cleo's longtime friend, barreling through the door with a panic-stricken expression. They've found us! Dark figures emerged behind her, shadows creeping from the corners of the mansion like predators. Malik instinctively moved in front of Cleo, his protective stance igniting a rush of fierce adrenaline. Get behind me, he ordered, his voice clipped and authoritative. No, Cleo snapped back, her instinct for independence rising against the encroaching danger. We face this together, remember? Malik's eyes flashed with something like respect mixed with concern, but there was no time for argument. The intruders burst into the room, thugs armed and menacing, determined to settle old scores. Cleo's heart raced as she steeled herself, sidestepping Malik and positioning herself beside him. You think you can just come here and threaten us? She shouted, her voice rising above the chaos, refusing to cower. The lead thug smirked, fingers twitching at his weapon. You're in over your head, lady. Malik met her gaze, a silent promise passing between them. It wasn't just about survival. It was about claiming back what had been taken from them, their power, their story, their very lives. Then let's show them what we're made of, Malik replied evenly, a spark igniting within. Together they squared their shoulders and faced the storm, two souls intertwined by fate, ready to rewrite their echoes of the past into a future forged in courage and conviction. Scene 49, an unbreakable bond. The flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows across the intricately woven Persian rugs, their hues a blend of deep burgundy and gold which enveloped Cleo Seke's private chamber. A brisk breeze rustled the drapes, the sweet, earthy scent of blooming jasmine wafting from the window, infusing the room with a hint of summer's lingering warmth. Cleo paced, her heart thrumming a wild rhythm that matched the chaos of recent events. The walls felt both comforting and confining, a reflection of her own tumultuous emotions. Malik Orpheus stood by the window, his silhouette framed against the night sky. The moonlight played along his broad shoulders, igniting the room with a glow that caught the sharp lines of his face, deepening the shadows of grief and resolve that clung to him. He turned his head slightly, his gaze lingering outside, lost momentarily in memories that weighed heavy on his spirit. I thought I lost you. Cleo finally broke the silence, her voice barely above a whisper. The tension between them crackled, an unspoken connection tethered by fear and relief. Malik's jaw tightened at her words, a flicker of vulnerability flashing in his dark eyes before he turned back fully to her. You're not going to get rid of me that easily, he said, but his tone lacked its usual lightness. There was a depth to his voice now, a weight that seemed to anchor them both in this quiet but fraught moment. Cleo took a step closer, the space between them electrifying. She studied his expression, noting the way his brow furrowed slightly, a reflection of the storm he kept beneath that charming mask. What does that mean? She asked, her heart thumping. I'm no longer a pawn in the game you all play. I am my own. Then stop trying to prove it, Malik replied, a hint of frustration seeping through. You are stronger than you think, and I I want to be here for you. The air thickened as his eyes bored into hers, unmasking a torrent of emotions. A fleeting doubt flared in her chest. Had she misjudged the flame that flickered between them? You shouldn't, Cleo murmured, cresting the treacherous line of intimacy. I'm a mess right now. Exactly, and I'll be a mess with you. Malik closed the distance between them, the palpable heat igniting an awareness that both thrilled and terrified her. The corner of his mouth quirked up, a shadow of his former humor returning, even if it was tempered by the seriousness of their predicament. Her breath caught, and for a moment, the world outside faded. Messy is my middle name at this point, she said, attempting to inject levity into the tension. He chuckled softly, and the sound reverberated within her like a melody that slipped through the cracks of her fraying resolve. Then I say we embrace the chaos. Malik's voice dropped, rich and layered, as he reached for her hand, his fingers wrapping around hers with a tender yet firm grip. The heat of him infiltrated her, igniting a warmth that spread all the way to her fingertips. Cleo glanced down, studying their entwined hands as if they contained all the answers. Do you ever take a break from being so intense? She regarded him with a mix of challenge and admiration. His smirk widened as he leaned in slightly, and she could feel the soft brush of his breath against her skin. Only when I'm in the company of someone who can keep up. The playful banter hung between them like a thin veil, masking the deeper tides swirling beneath. With a sudden pull of fortitude, Cleo stepped closer, their shared warmth igniting the air between them, and whispered, I want to trust you, but what are you really hiding, Malik? Do you even know? Her question lingered, heavy with the potential for unraveling everything they had built in such a short time. He inhaled deeply, his expression shifting to one of guarded honesty. Trust is a two-way street, he responded slowly, his gaze steady. I can only share what you're willing to hear. Her breath hitched, and in that moment, everything felt simpler. The yearning, the connection, the chaos, they were all tangled and raw. Then let's go down this road together, she said, her voice steady, a new determination sweeping through her. Malik's eyes softened, and a flicker of relief washed over his features. Together, he echoed. He stepped closer still, the space narrowing until all she could see was him, his strength, his resolve. And as their hearts intertwined amidst uncertainty and the weight of their pasts, the promise of something more bloomed between them, unbreakable and bright like the star-filled night beyond the window. Scene 50. A final showdown. The late afternoon sun filtered through the ancient oak trees of Ashgrove Manor, casting playful shadows across the manicured lawn. Cleo Seke knelt, meticulously pruning the vibrant marigolds, each snip of her shears echoing her mounting anxiety. This mundane task belied the weight of her thoughts, each flower a symbol of her resolve to uproot the tangled web of deceit binding her to a past she needed to sever. Cleo, Malik Orpheus said, his voice a low murmur, nearly drowned out by the gentle rustle of leaves. He stood a few paces away, his tall frame casting a long shadow over the flower bed. You don't have to do this alone. She straightened up, wiping dirt from her hands. And allow you to scold me about putting myself in danger again? I'd rather take my chances pruning roses. A sparkle of mischief danced in her eyes, but the tension in her voice betrayed her deep down. She felt the looming confrontation with Whitmore's empire weigh heavily upon them. Malik stepped forward, his expression turning serious. We're not facing mere roses today. Whitmore's people won't give up the moment we show weakness. He'll strike when we least expect it. His eyes held a fierce intensity, a protective gaze that made her heart race despite her anxiety. They had come too far to falter now, but the thought of facing Whitmore, her late fiancé's brother, now revealed as a manipulative puppet master, made her stomach churn. Cleo exhaled sharply, the weight of the moment pushing against her chest. And what if I fail? She couldn't help but question her own strength. What if everything I've tried to do only deepens the decay? Then we get back up, regardless. Malik reached out, brushing a thumb over her knuckles, warm and steady. But I need to know I can trust you to be by my side. In that fleeting touch, an unexpected vulnerability flickered across his usually guarded demeanor. Cleo felt the world around them blur for a moment, their resolve drawing them closer, pulsing with the sweet ache of unfinished business. I can't keep running from this, she finally said, her voice softer. He's the one who twisted everything, my family, my life. I need to end it today. Malik stepped closer, urging her to meet his gaze. And when we confront him, what will you say? You have to let him know how strong you are. It's not just about fighting him, Cleo. It's about reclaiming yourself. The fervor in his eyes ignited something within her, a flicker of the self-assured woman she had always aspired to be. You're right, she breathed with a newfound determination, feeling her heart swell with courage. Let's stop wasting time. We do this together. As they prepared to leave, a rustle in the bushes caught their attention. From the cover of the dense foliage emerged a familiar face, Harold, one of Malik's closest allies. You two are in a world of trouble, you realize that? He half joked, his brows arched, but his voice edged with genuine concern. Whitmore's men are on the prowl, and if they catch you, well, it won't be just your flowers that are pruned. Then we'll prune him back, won't we? Malik replied, a shadow of a grin on his lips, even as he kept his eyes scanning the surroundings. The trio made their way to their carriage, tension crackling in the air. As they approached the vehicle, Cleo caught sight of Miranda, her once jealous friend, slinking from the opposite direction. Miranda's eyes gleamed like daggers, tension flaring as her gaze darted between the two of them. What's this? The two of you playing knights in shining armor now? Miranda quipped, her tone laced with sarcasm. How charming, but do you honestly think you can take down someone with such power? Cleo met her gaze, fire igniting within. That power is built on lies, Miranda, and I'm gathering the truth. It's time for all of us to step out of the shadows. Miranda scoffed, crossing her arms. You'll never win this fight, Cleo. You're a fool if you think you can just take Whitmore down. But maybe a fool who knows how to swing a dagger. Malik shot back, gauging the growing tension. The moment hung suspended, heavy with the weight of festering resentments and hope. Cleo turned to Malik, who offered an encouraging nod, their silent pact solidifying the bond they had inadvertently forged in the flames of chaos. Let's go, Malik. Today is the end of this. Cleo concluded, her voice steady. Right behind you, he replied, his hand resting firmly at the small of her back as they climbed into the carriage. The air crackled with imminent uncertainty, but victory loomed on the horizon, and Cleo felt the stirrings of newfound strength rising within her. The world awaited their return, and so did the shadows of their pasts, ready to confront them one final time. Scene 51, The Truth and Binding Oath. In the dim light of the library, dust particles danced in the air, illuminated by the soft glow of the fireplace. Cleo stood at the mahogany table, her fingers tracing the spines of leather-bound books filled with forgotten tales. The room was silent, save for the distant crackle of the fire, a comforting sound that belied the storm brewing within her heart. Malik entered quietly, the faint scent of sandalwood trailing behind him, a reminder of the complex layers of his character. His eyes fell on Cleo, and for a moment, time held its breath. She looked up, startled, her heartbeat quickening. His gaze was intense, probing, as if he were searching for answers within her. Are you looking for something in the past? Malik's voice was low, teasing yet laced with an earnestness that struck Cleo deeply. Perhaps, or perhaps I'm trying to envision a future, she replied, searching his face for any hint of what he truly felt. The question hung in the air, meaningful yet unaddressed, like a taut string ready to snap. Malik took a step closer, an uncharacteristic seriousness settling over him like a shroud. You know, a binding oath can be both a promise and a shackle. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. Cleo dropped her hand from the books, folding her arms defensively. You speak in riddles. Just say what you mean, she demanded, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her brave front. I mean to say that there are things we hide, things we fear to confront. His demeanor shifted. The playful man she knew was now replaced by a figure of darkness and depth, like the truth of why I stepped into your life. She turned away, pretending to inspect a particularly dusty volume. Surely you have more pressing matters to attend to than my whims, she scoffed, yet her voice lacked conviction, wavering with unacknowledged emotion. Malik moved even closer, the air between them thick with tension. You are not a whim to me, Cleo. You never were. His words struck her like a physical blow. He paused, allowing his admission to settle like the fine dust that lined the shelves. I can't watch you drown in this chaos without offering you a hand. Cleo's breath caught, their eyes locking in a battle of wills. The silence stretched, laden with unsaid confessions. Heat radiated from their closeness, and her resolve began to crack. And what of your own darkness? She asked, pushing him away with a mere whisper, though her heart urged her to pull him closer. You can't save me if you can't save yourself, Malik. Maybe that's why I can't stop thinking about you, he murmured, voice thick with vulnerability. You're a fire that ignites something in the shadows of my soul. Her heart raced as she processed his words, each syllable igniting a rush of heat that coursed through her. Before she knew it, she was stepping towards him, the space between them collapsing under the weight of unspoken emotion. What are you saying? Cleo breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm saying that you matter to me, Cleo, more than you know. His eyes bored into hers, the honesty within them both terrifying and liberating. There's so much at stake, and I refuse to let it be you who pays the price. Tears glimmered at the corners of her eyes. I cannot be your saving grace, Malik. I can hardly save myself, she confessed, the quiet intensity of the moment almost overpowering. The truth hung between them, charged and electric. Malik reached out, capturing her hand in his, enveloping her in warmth. You don't need to be perfect for me. You just need to be you, he said softly, squeezing her hand as if trying to hold on to the fleeting moment, a promise forged in the quiet shadows of their fears. Cleo felt her defenses melting away, giving in to something softer, something real. Then let us vow to face this together, she said, heart pounding with a mix of fear and exhilaration, the gravity of their situation anchoring her resolve. A true oath, through the darkness and into the light. Together, then, until the end. Malik's voice held an undercurrent of passion, a silent yet profound connection binding them both. It was an unbreakable vow, a promise that they would navigate the chaos side by side. As they stood there, eyes locked and hands entwined, a shared understanding blossomed, a truth that bound them closer than ever before, even as the shadows whispered around them, threatening to pull them apart. Cleo knew they were standing at the precipice of something monumental, a moment where love could weave through the chaos, transforming everything. Together, she echoed, a whisper of hope infused with a spark of something deeper. Scene 52, Embracing Love. The early morning sun slanted through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow over the rustic wooden table where Cleo Seke meticulously arranged a bouquet of wildflowers. Each petal felt like an echo of her turbulent heart, light yet weighted with the unspoken. She pulled a strand of hair behind her ear, her fingers trembling slightly, a small rebellion against the chaotic thoughts waltzing through her mind. Cleo, are you going to decorate like you mean it? Malik Orpheus leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, his brow furrowed. The lines on his face deepened with concern, that charming smirk dimmed by something heavier. She glanced up, catching his eyes. There was a lingering intensity there, conflicted, searching. I think I'm doing just fine, she replied, her voice clipped, revealing the frustration simmering below the surface. His jaw tightened. Fine isn't going to cut it, especially not today. He stepped forward, his large frame taking up the space in the kitchen like a storm brewing, every inch of him vibrating with palpable energy. Are you really going to pretend this is just about flowers? Cleo stood tall but felt her heart racing. What's it to you? You've got plenty of other things on your mind, she shot back, turning her attention back to the flowers, though her hands shook. She had always used humor as a shield, but today that shield felt precarious. What I have on my mind is you, Malik replied, his voice low and earnest. He took another step closer, the air between them charged with unspoken tension. She felt his gaze sweeping over her, searching for cracks in her facade. She begrudgingly met his eyes, which radiated fire, magic, and uncertainty. And what exactly do you want from me? She snapped, crossing her arms tightly over her chest. You think I'm just going to unfold my heart like some delicate origami? He moved closer still, until they were nearly touching. The scent of sandalwood clung to him, intoxicating and familiar. I want you to stop pretending, Cleo, he urged, voice thickening with frustration. We're not playing at a ball anymore. This is real. The heat in her cheeks flared, His proximity stirred something wild within her, but she remained resistant. What do you know of my reality? You only see shadows. Shadows or depth? He hesitated, then reached out, gently drawing a finger along her forearm, sending a shiver up her spine. I know about the pain, the loneliness, the impossibilities you carry. I see you. His voice softened, a whisper within the chaos. Cleo felt the world tilt beneath her. What do you want, Malik? Do you want me to admit I was wrong about everything? She stepped back, halting the moment that hung between them like a taut thread, ready to snap. Is that it? You want me to acknowledge you're right? His expression hardened. This isn't about being right. It's about standing together, finding honesty amid the chaos. Don't you trust me? Trust is earned, not handed out like sweets at a fair, she shot back, though the weight in her chest felt heavier than her words. Then let's earn it together, he suggested, his voice steady. This life we're tangled in, this community, this darkness, it's all around us. I'm asking you to lean into it, to let me help. I can be your anchor. Why don't you say what you really mean, she challenged, though a part of her desperately wanted to know what he wanted from her. In the silence that followed, she felt the unyielding beat of her heart echoing in her ears. He stepped even closer, leaning forward as if daring her with his presence. I want you, Cleo, every flawed, beautiful part of you. The vulnerability rolled off him like a wave, crashing over her defenses. Despite the lingering anger and mistrust, her vision blurred. She felt all of it. The longing, the desire, the chaotic fear. I'm scared, Malik, she whispered, a confession slipping from her lips like a secret. In an instant, his arms encircled her, firm yet tender, grounding her even as the world around them felt dizzying. Let me hold your fear. We can face it together. For the first time, she softened into his embrace, not wanting to hold back. What if I'm too much? Then I'll take all of it. His breath against her temple felt electric, igniting a spark deep within. I'm not afraid of the storm. With his heartbeat pounding against her ear, she knew this was what love was. A reckoning amidst chaos, a dance of shadows embracing light, and a promise to weather it all side by side. Scene 53. Preparing for the future. The sun dipped low over Blackstone Manor, casting golden rays through the intricately designed stained glass windows. Dust particles danced lazily amidst the warmth, creating a hazy ambiance that felt almost sacred. Cleo Seke stood in the grand ballroom, an imposing space that echoed her trepidation and reverberated with the ghosts of past gatherings. Here, chandeliers temporarily dulled, and the polished wooden floorboards whispered secrets of joy and sorrow underneath her reflective weight. With a mysterious tapestry behind her, Cleo studied her reflection in a gilded mirror, adjusting the deep sapphire gown that hugged her curves, while also wrestling with the constraints of societal expectations. She brushed a finger across the intricate lace at the collar, feeling the softness against her skin, a reminder of her personhood obscured by the weight of her engagement. I can't do this anymore, she murmured under her breath, her own voice laced with defiance, mixed with disbelief. Just then, the heavy doors creaked open, and Malik Orpheus entered, the distant sound of thunder rumbling just outside. He wore a half-smile, all charm and enigma, but there was an intensity in his gaze that sent a shiver down her spine. The way he moved, with a languid grace coupled with a palpable tension, captivated her attention. His dark eyes held secrets deep as the ocean, and she wondered what lay beneath that charming surface. Looks like we're in for a storm, Cleo, he noted, stepping closer, his voice low and smooth like velvet. Just the right weather for making decisions. Cleo turned to face him fully, the air electric between them. And what decisions are we discussing, Malik? She quipped, trying to mask her rising heartbeat beneath a veil of collected bravado. He stepped even closer, the distance between them negligible now, punctuated only by the soft smell of sandalwood that clung to him. Your future, your autonomy. You deserve to navigate through all this, he gestured around them, on your own terms. Her jaw clenched in defiance at the prospect of that daunting path ahead, yet here with him, such weight felt lighter. And you think I can just do that? Pick up the shards of my life? The challenge laced in her tone was more for herself than for him. Why not? You've always had the strength. Malik leaned in, his words formidable yet sympathetic, and Cleo's breath caught momentarily. the gravity of his belief settling in her chest. She hesitated, looking deep into those dark eyes, searching for the betrayal she so often expected, but finding only resolve. So what if I just decided to leave everything behind, to start over? There was a hint of vulnerability in her question, the smallest crack she allowed to form in her armor. Yes, together, we'll step into the unknown. Malik's enthusiasm was contagious, stirring something deep within her. You're not alone in this, Cleo. Not anymore. Suddenly, another crack of thunder echoed outside, shaking the very ground beneath them and shattering the tension in the air. Cleo chuckled nervously, breaking eye contact. It seems even the universe supports this wild idea of mine. Malik's hand found hers, warm and steady, anchoring her in the moment. The universe recognizes a spark. Just like this, he said, lifting her hand to his lips, brushing against her knuckles with a kiss that sent warmth cascading through her body like an unexpected summer rain.